Hey everybody, and we're back with Memoirs and Some, the podcast. I'm your host, Myia Dominique, and today we are kicking it with my longtime friend and elementary school friend. She's a wife, a phlebotomist in the making, and a highly trained phlebotomist specialist. None other than my girl, Sharai Terrell. What's going
Hey
on, girl?
y'all. Nothing much. Living life.
Living life. My girl say living life. Living life. Give me a little background. Tell me about yourself.
I'm 29 years old. I was born in Oak Park, Illinois. I love traveling. I love, doing all girl stuff. I like going out and exploring, meeting new people, learning new things, just broaden my horizon to the world and different things. So right now, I'm working in a hospital. I'm about to start school on Monday.
Yes,
and
amazing.
Trying to obtain this nursing degree because it just don't stop at phlebotomy. I'm going further and further and further.
I know that's right. And inspiring nurse, y'all know I'm out for that. So
right.
that's music to my ears. With that being said, I'll give y'all a brief background on me and Sharai. I met Sharai when we was in 3rd grade. I ain't telling y'all our age, but
I just know though.
She did what then, yeah. We 28 and we 29. No, I'm just playing. And I met her in 3rd grade. Our moms instantly connected. And we've been inseparable kind of ever since. Nothing ever happened in life to where we were like not cool. We always were able to keep in touch, follow up with each other, whether it was via social media. Hey girl, I changed my number. Hey girl, I'm having this. So on and so forth. So I can appreciate those type of friendships because life be life, and my girl don't be mad if she don't hear from me, but she sure go check in.
Yeah, check in from time to time, no matter if it's a month, a year from now, or whatever. We gonna make sure we check in with each other.
Yes. So I am doing things differently on Memoirs and Some, the podcast, as you all know in season 1. I used to do the end cards, and I kind of fell away from them and pulled back. But your girl is back and better like never before. We are doing these end cards. But the way I'm going to do them is a little bit different this time. So as I have my guest come on, Sharai is the first guest who's doing it the new way. She does not know what this end card question is. Only I do. I picked it based off our topic. I picked it based off the person and circumstances. And I felt like because I get to know my guests a little bit more, I do a little research. I have them kind of tell me some things, of course, about themselves that I may or may not know. I felt like these questions would accommodate each guest. So we're going to start with Sharai with our first end question. Back and better. What is it about me that makes you think I understand you?
I mean, we grew up from kind of the same background. We had a mother only in the house with us. So it's like, you, by us coming from the same upbringing, you know how I maneuver in life, and I know how you maneuver in life. So it's just like, by us being all growing up all these years together, you know me.
I definitely agree. I have no objection. She said it and hit it right on the head. We do. We literally grew up the same way, the same area. We both had a younger sibling in the house. We both had a single mother. We both had a mother that was working. All of that. So we have some of the same morals and the same principles in that same upbringing. So yes, I definitely think, fitting right? Question fitting. Now let me tie it all together. So today I got my girl on here because we are talking all things bad situations, but good relationships. And what I mean by that is great relationships can come from bad interactions or bad situations. So I chose this topic for Sharai because how we met and our circumstances growing up were very similar. I felt she would be able to articulate this topic without watering it down, especially how it is modeled with us today. So, before I let her get into her spiel, I'm going to give y'all my 5-minute spiel. We grew up in Oak Park. She just said that briefly. And anybody that knows anything about Oak Park is not a predominantly African American municipality or village. It is predominantly Caucasian. They want to keep it that way. However, us African American folks who desire to have better communities and better grocery stores and better parks and safer environments for our children decide that we would linger out and go to those municipalities. Well, it's not always easy going to those municipalities when the color that you are is not the color they desire in their municipality. Mm-hmm. With that being said, we endured so many challenges and so many changes growing up, even before I could even say 8th grade, dealing with racism, prejudiced teachers, and yes, when I say prejudiced teachers, I mean just what I said. Racist and prejudiced teachers. It is very much still around. It is very much still here. And we were very much mistreated. Was it a little bit sheltered, as the time kind of went on? Yes. But it was there. It was very much there. So I'm going to let her give her spiel before we get into the topic.
Yeah, like she said, growing up in Oak Park, it was not always easy. You had to prove yourself. If you wanted to be like the Caucasians, you had to prove yourself that you fit for Oak Park, because that was not a city or suburb where you can go and act out and fight and like the city of Chicago. You can't go there and fight, because then they're going to look at you like, we're going to kick them out. Let's put them in an alternative school. Mm-hmm. And no, because you belong there just as well as the Caucasian kids and families do as well. So no matter what background your family might come from, your parent choose better for you. And if they choose better for you, take that opportunity and run with it. Mm-hmm. Although it is going to come with problems. So you have to be strong enough. You have to know your worth. What's your worth? Do you want an education in a city where poverty is happening, or do you want to be brought up in an upbringing where you can grow, you can learn from different races, and you can just venture out and be the best you, basically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. So y'all heard it here from us first, so we're going to get right into the topic. Name 3 ways we experienced racism growing up in Oak Park.
I'm going to start off with the way we look. The way we look, our education, how much education you have and how smart you are, and your home, your upbringing. Okay. Is the 3 that I would name.
I would say financial status is a big part of it. When you take your kids to those municipalities, you got to be ready for these kids to look at your kids like competition. Although kids shouldn't be even focused on that, that it is like an automatic trained thing that they teach their kids. I'm not sure why. Not even sure if it's something that is done on purpose all the time, but it's definitely done. Your financial status makes a difference. Like she said, you gotta prove that you should be there, because they treat you as if you shouldn't. And trust me, if you are a person that they feel shouldn't be there, they will make sure that you are not there. They will get you kicked out of their municipality with no problem. Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with that at all. So I definitely think financial status. I definitely think the way you dress, the way you are,
carry yourself.
And how you carry yourself, but more so even culture-wise. They don't like real Afrocentric people. And then if you are one of those very Afrocentric people, you're often made fun of even more or talked about even more. So people with locks or people who may enjoy wearing dashikis as fashion, those type of things are frowned upon. They're not looked at as embracing your culture, whereas maybe some Jewish guy with a what's the things that they wear, friend?
Oh, I forget.
I can't remember the head beanie because I don't want to disrespect anybody's culture, but I can't remember the head beanie that Jewish people wear. It's
not a hijab. That's
not a hijab. Yeah. That's the Arabian, I think. But at any rate, y'all get where I'm going with this. It was never a problem for them to embrace their culture. It was always frowned upon for us to embrace ours. So that was definitely one. And then your overall, just you academically. They put a stigma on you or a stereotype whether you wanted it or not. If you weren't a kid that had straight A's, trust and believe, they treated you as if you did not deserve to be there, that you needed an IEP, that you had ADHD. It became all these statistics and stigmatisms that came with you being African American because your grades were not equivalent to the other children.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate that that's how things were. And I told y'all, we met in 3rd grade. So we went through this for 3rd grade, 4th grade, and then I transferred. She was there 5th grade. Then she went to middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Then she went to high
whole
school.
life.
So she went through it a lot longer than I did. I did go to other schools where I experienced it, where it wasn't Oak Park, but it was other suburbs that still, it was the same scenario. Okay. Let's move it right along. How did the way you and your family were treated as a child affect you growing up? So how did that racism in Oak Park affect you and your family?
I was one of the kids, like she just mentioned, that if you weren't doing well in school, they would label you and say you need an IEP. I was one of those kids that I knew the classwork, I knew the homework, I knew the tests and stuff like that. But I was too busy trying to be the class, not so much the class clown, but I was trying to involve myself in the drama and the conversations that was going on in the class, so I wasn't being focused. And they took that to their advantage, saying, "Oh, she wanna not pay attention in class. Let's put her in lower grade classes, so we won't have to deal with her, basically, or we can just say, oh, these one of the kids that need an IEP." So I had an IEP, no more than 3rd grade. That's when they stopped it. Because I started proving myself, and I was like, it's time to get myself together because they looking at me as if I don't belong here. Yeah, so that was one of the reasons. And then they always didn't see my father there being present like they saw my mother. So they like automatically knew that I grew up in a single parent household. And those are the parents they like to target. Those are the families they like to target, especially, with her being saying financially stable. Oh, your mother don't have enough money to do this and do that. How do your mother afford the rent that's in Oak Park or the mortgage? Like, how is she making it out here? So they wanted to get all into the family business when the education should have been their main concern and not household.
Okay. I think for me, 3 ways that it affected. For me, I think it didn't have a big impact. I think I was always one of those kids who were very mature. At a younger age, I did not understand it and was more vocal about it. Didn't understand why other kids got treated the way they did and I got treated the way I did, or why my mom was always called for a conference because I talked too much opposed to the other children. But I'm answering the questions like the other kids. Was I a talkative student? Absolutely. But I also did all my work. I never was like in trouble for bullying or fighting or things like that. I did my work. Um, but it affected my brother tremendously. My brother experienced so much more being an African American boy growing up in Oak Park. It was so terrible to see how that affected him because he really did not care to have relationships with Caucasian people. He was scarred from that and traumatized from a lot of the experiences he experienced living in Oak Park growing up. Um, he held on to that for a while, before he started to open up and really grow up as he passed color, but before then he saw it the same way they saw us, black. I think it affected our overall family structure. Just it created more life lessons that probably should not have had to been taught at such a young age, meaning how to talk to people and how to accept what someone is saying, whether it's true or not, or whether you like it or not, and having to not be able to vocalize what you want to say because, number one, you African American, so what you say doesn't really matter. But then number two, you're a child, so they look at you as disrespectful. They then label you. So you have to allow your parent to be the one to speak, even though you could be just vocalizing. It's looked at as something else. So that is definitely something that is super important when you are choosing your children's school. And I know this is a side note, but me as a mom, I think about that all the time. With me living in a municipality now with my own children, that's something that you really think about. The people who are going to be instilling and pouring into your kids throughout the day. Do I think our parents thought they did the right thing by moving us to the suburbs? Yes. Did they understand that that affected us in another way because of the experiences that we had? No, they didn't get that then. But now, I guarantee you, if they had to do it again, they would look at some things differently. Not to say they would make the same decisions, but knowing that this may be one of the heartaches or struggles, I don't think they would have made the decision to carry on as long.
Yeah.
So I guess, yeah, we get now. Do you believe racism is taught? Why or why not?
I believe racism is not taught. They teach you the watered down version. Meaning, oh, we came from this, now we're here. But we're still kind of at the point that we started from. So they teach you the watered down version because they don't want to have to deal with how it really affects us and how, what was going through. Because most of the what we were going through, because most of the teachers that is teaching this, they can't teach us
anything they never experienced.
Right. They can't teach us nothing they ever experienced. They can only teach us what they race did to us. Or what they race did to other cultures. So, no, it's not taught the way that it needs to be taught.
Okay, and so what about in the home, though? Do you think racism is taught? So, as in an African American child or a Chinese child or a Caucasian child, do you think it is taught in that home to be racist by the parents? Or even just culturally based off some of the cultural things that they do? Because indirectly it could be racist. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that it's excusable in any way.
Right.
But these are kids. And if this is their cultural routines or rituals, you get what I'm saying?
It is taught in homes for, parents to tell them like, oh, you can't play with them because of how their upbringing is. No, I don't want you going over their house. Parents still set in their ways. Some parents are still set in their ways. So by them being set in their ways, they want their children to model how they act. So yes, you can't go over Chandra's house because her mother is always at work. I don't know what you guys are going to be doing. Y'all at home. Y'all at home by yourself. She has no parents at home guiding her, and yeah, so it's talked. We are talked down by other races in their homes to their kids.
Absolutely. I agree with her 1,000%. I definitely think racism is taught. I think it is a learned behavior. I do not think kids innocently come here being racist. I think it's something that as you are around the people in your village or the people that are in your environment, you pick up on racist actions, of course, but more importantly, like I was just explaining, when you are, she said it best, set in your ways. You have those old school kind of grandparents and parents who are set in their ways where their way is the way. There is no other way. And that's not always true. We know that to not always be true. But those old school parents, them old school
They're
rituals,
not changing.
they not changing. So yes, it's taught.
It's their way or the highway.
It's their way. You know, it's taught. So it's mandatory in their household. It's unfortunate because to this day I still believe racism is taught in households.
And then for Caucasian kids, I believe they really do want to see what our lifestyle about and hang out with us. But some of them can't. Like that's a no. Like you cannot.
Yeah. How are you able to see the positives out of the situation?
Growing up in a predominantly Caucasian neighborhood, it made me look at life different. Like, I'm not saying the grass was greener on the other side because it always wasn't. But when I do have children, I want them to grow up in suburban areas. I don't want them to grow up in the city because it teaches you what's more out there in the world. Like, you get to go to different countries if you go to these schools. Sometimes they offer you to go to France and stuff like that. So you learn a lot, and it gives you a lot of life skills. Because no matter what you're being brought, it's what you going to go further in life. Like it doesn't just stop right now. It goes further. And hey, I went through this as a kid, but as an adult, I know what I'm not going to go through or what I'm not going to take. So, I mean, it gave me a lot of life lessons. It made me grow up quicker because nothing is handed to you. You got to go out there and get what you want, and that's what they taught us. Like, strive for what you want. So I was all about the education there. And, yes, we didn't have the most how can I say it? The most respectfulest teachers and principals and faculty staff. Like, no, we didn't. But hey, we rolled with the punches, and now we're great adults to this day.
I will agree. I definitely think that the experiences taught me not only to appreciate the opportunities that were presented in front of me, but to prove people wrong. This was the first step in learning to prove people wrong. Turning that negative situation at such a young age into a positive situation is never easy. This is 3rd, 4th grade. We talking this elementary school. So we don't really know that we're turning these opportunities into better these negative situations into better opportunities because we're kids. But we saw fit in being friends. We saw fit in still enjoying our childhood. We didn't see color as kids. We saw that's my friend. This is my friend. I remember us being Girl Scouts. You don't find many black Girl Scouts. Even to this day, I just bought Girl Scout of my kids not too long ago at Walmart. And there was not one African American Girl Scout girl out there.
No.
You know, so it wasn't promoted. But our parents, they were there at those fundraisers. Mm-hmm. They were there helping us sell those cookies. We were even brownies before we were Girl Scouts. You know, so it just...
And I forgot, I was actually a daisy. A daisy is for kindergartners. I was actually a daisy. I didn't go to kindergarten in Oak Park, but I started from a daisy in kindergarten, so.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting because y'all know my little poo-poo here, she is getting big, and I think about that all the time. You know, I walk my kids to school some days. I do have a car, and I have a nice car. Shit. And still, you know, I enjoy those things. Doing it. If I walk my child to school, unfortunately, the narrative or the thought process is that I don't have a car. Mm-hmm. Or that I can't afford to Uber my children to school or drive my kids to school. When that's not the case. When you walk through Oak Park and you see parents walking their kids to the bus stops and
nobody else
walking their strollers and their dogs and, you know, having their coffee and go, it's never assumed that they can't afford to drive their kids to school. Yeah. It's never assumed that they can't do. And what's crazy is circumstantially, that may be the case for them. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. It ain't always been the case for me where no, I'm lying. I've always had a car as having kids. But even still, the circumstances and the narrative that's painted when you're African American versus when you're Caucasian, it's unfortunate, but it's still very much racist to this day.
And it shouldn't be that way. Like, we all in the same community. We all in the same. We wake up the same. We breathe the same. We bleed the same.
I don't understand if we pay the same taxes. Why is it assumed that I can afford to have the same things that you have?
I'm paying just as much.
I'm paying just as much in taxes as you. My neighbor, and where I stay right now, she's Caucasian. We pay the same amount of taxes. Her house looks way different than mine. And when I say way different, I'm not talking about positively. But it's never going to be assumed that a Caucasian woman stays in that building. Mm-hmm. Never. It's never going to be assumed by that. And it's unfortunate that even our mindsets have been trained to think like that about our own people. Yeah. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Mm-hmm. Our culture has been trained to think about that or think that way about our own people. Excuse me. And I say that to say, when I first moved here, and people would come over and like, how's your neighbors? And, you know, so on and so forth. It was automatically assumed that this lady's house was an abandoned house. Mm. And this poor 85-year-old Caucasian lady living there alone. Does the house need some work? Absolutely. She lives alone. She doesn't have her kids. They come and visit. And I know this is off subject, but then again, it's not necessarily off subject. We have to learn, in order for other people to support us or support how we look at things or want people to look at us differently, we have to present ourselves differently, and we have to support that. Yeah. We don't do that as a culture, whereas other cultures and races do, and it's unfortunate. But because we have been beat down so much throughout history and mistreated so much throughout history, it does make it hard to want to stand up and fight. It does make it hard for you to want to be combative. It just makes it easier to just be like, nah, I'm just not going to say nothing. But is it okay for you to continue to get mistreated? That's the battle that we fight every day, and that was a battle that we were fighting at such a young age that we shouldn't have had to.
You're only going to get what you want if you speak up. So that's the way, you know, we're going about life now, is not keeping stuff in the dark and just speaking on what's wrong. People need to know how they're treating you, and how they're treating you is not right, because if the tables was turned, they would be hurt real bad.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So last question. Do you feel you were labeled as a black child in Oak Park? And if so, do you feel your life today meets that label?
I really don't feel like I was labeled as a black child. Yeah, I had racist moments where people, because of my upbringing and having one parent in the household, and my mom probably not financially stable to do everything that I wanted to do, or everything that the school was offering. She was not able to do that because, of course, I had a younger sibling, and so forth. So no, I don't feel like I was labeled as a black child. Yes, of course they knew I was black, but I was well cultured. I would get a chance to go over our Girl Scout leader house and spend nights with her family, and make different cultural foods, and we would go over. Well, I would go over. I had a Chinese friend. We would go over her house for Chinese New Year and make pizzas and stuff like that. So I was very diverse in where I grew up. So I don't feel like they really labeled me as a black child.
I definitely don't feel like I was either. I do feel like my brother was, which is unfortunate. I don't feel like they labeled me either, but I also felt like that was because, like I said, I was not a bad kid. I was not a kid that was into drama and BS. I did my work. I was a girl. I had friends that were girls. Girls are catty. Girls are messy. But I never was like the stuff starter girl. I never was the mean girl. I was always kind of the friend. I was nice to everybody for the most part, which kind of got me in a whole lot of jams when you got to middle school, because you got to learn how to be a little bit more mean.
Yeah, because those friends in elementary school is not your friends in middle school.
No, they are not. I definitely agree with Sharai 100%. Being diverse and being able to diversify yourself based upon your environment made a difference, because I also had friends that were not black who I was able to go to their houses and interact. I could never spend a night, but we could always, hang out for a couple of hours, hang at a park, meet up, and have those type of interactions. And because it's not a cultural thing typically for African American people, it was so like a big deal when we were able to like have play dates, or you can't. It's like we wasn't supposed to be able to do that, because remember, our moms went to work. Our moms weren't stay-at-home moms. We didn't go home for lunch. We either took a lunch or ate school lunch. So with that being said, we were always looked at as the other kids when we were in that environment.
Yeah.
But growing out of that environment, I don't think I was labeled. I think I was dealt a fair hand for the most part. And I can appreciate that, because a lot of African American kids can't say that. It's unfortunate, like she said, I did feel it every now and again. You feel it. But overall, no, I still was able to diversify myself and even be open to learning to other, being open to learn different cultures and different races, and not be closed-minded because of this bad experience.
Yeah.
I was able to still see past that. So I can appreciate that.
And then I feel like if we would see the teachers and the faculty staff that, we went to school, went to their school, they would look at us like, oh my God, is that her?
Yeah, I definitely.
Because, okay, speaking on, your behalf, how they say you was the talking to, they were like, she got a business? She a boss mom? This is not the Myia that I know.
They don't expect nothing, because they're like, all she do is talk in class. Yeah, she get good grades, or she talks too much or whatever, but not knowing that talent could be used.
And then
in
I
other
still
places.
have like connections with some of the faculty staff.
Really?
And I did get a couple of comments when I got married. They was like, "Oh my God, you're married! You're so beautiful, and I'm so happy for you." And
That's amazing.
Yeah, so a few of them, just a few, but yeah, it's nice hearing those things because wasn't you the same person that
didn't really care for me? You
that
looked
didn't care
down
for me?
at me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely crazy. But I'm glad we were able to, and like I said, this is a friendship that ain't going nowhere, literally. But I say that so humbly because we come from very humble beginnings, and it makes a difference. It makes a difference in the friendship. It makes a difference in just how we carry ourselves as women, but more importantly, the experiences and new memories that we are creating, not only for ourselves, but for our families and families that we are growing. Being able to talk about those experiences, lay them, put them on a table, and not be in a bitter or a bad place about it is amazing. So I definitely agree that y'all see Exhibit A. Bad situations don't mean you cannot have a good outcome. You
don't gotta be hateful towards those people. Yep. You don't have to do none of that. You learn from it.
You learn from it, and you show the opposite of what's being done. Everybody don't always, get it. So sometimes you just gotta show them that you're from the show me state, and that usually works for the most part. Once you put it in a person's face, like, okay, this is not acceptable, and this is where I was at this time, it usually works. But again, it just all depends on how you do something. I always tell people, it's not what you do, it's how you do it. It's how you do it. You can get that same thing across. And it took me a long time to learn that. Like I said, there were some experiences that had me looking at folks crazy at some point in time.
Like, is you for real?
Right. But then, you get to a place where you mature and you like, nah, that wasn't even worth it, or I'm not even going to go there. Now, sometimes I will go there. Sometimes I will.
It got to be worth it for me to go there.
If you a Karen, you're cut. Okay? Karens are cut. I don't play that.
No, I don't play that either.
No. So did you enjoy yourself?
I enjoy myself. It like she said, it's great to talk about these things. It's great to get them off your chest. It's great to educate others on they might be going through the same situations and not want to talk about it. But hey, we here to talk about it with you and for you.
Absolutely. So with that being said, she just took me right into my next piece. Memoirs and some just think on it. So this is also something new that I'm incorporating because I think this is important. We talk about memories because memoirs and some is memories. It is memories that can teach you lessons or share a lesson with the next person. That's all that I am here to do, is to take my experience and to say, this is what I did, this is what I experienced, this is how I handle it, and here's somebody else who's kept that common interest. So with that being said, memoirs and some, just think on it. I'm going to allow Sharai to do the Let's Think on It tonight. Let's Think on It allows guests to give 2 takeaways or words of advice to the viewers. So if you had to give them 2 takeaways or 2 words of advice to take away from this episode and this topic, what would it be?
So I got a phrase. You are not what you come from. Don't let your upbringings define who you are. Be open to learn different experiences, even if it's racism, even if it's different cultural upbringings. Be open to learn how things go in their culture so you can prepare yourself for the worst and you can prepare yourself for the best.
Diversifying yourself is always a plus. Always a plus. I think those are some amazing takeaways. I definitely feel like I said, you can always turn a bad situation into a positive. You can always get something out of it. I have learned with this pregnancy alone to look at the glass half full. Stop looking at it half empty. Because if you look at it half empty, you already going in it that you taking from yourself. If you go in it with the confidence that what you have is what you will have, you come out with a much better outcome. And I promise you it works. I know it's probably mind over matter. And if it is, baby, this man is strong, baby, because I am not allowing any negative situations, whether it's racism, prejudice, or anything, block my blessings, number one, but take me to a place where I can get the positive piece up out of it. This part of my life is all about pulling it out, and if I can't do that, I just don't need to be around at that point, because we don't want no negative encounters at all. We don't want no negative.
You can't grow from negative.
No.
You always got to remain positive.
Yes. Well, I thank you so much for coming, boo.
No problem.
This little baby got me going through it, y'all. We on a 90-day countdown, baby, okay? But I really thank you for coming. I appreciate you coming. I thank you for sharing your experiences, because it's not always easy. It's not, and bad memories ain't always easy to share either. So
I'd be like, leave them where they at. But no, you got to talk about it. You got to talk.
Number one, it's healthy, but number two, it gives other people an opportunity to know that they are, number one, not alone, but number two, that they that there's somebody else that's gone through it too and can kind of give you some advice. It may not work for everybody, but if I can help one, I've done enough. I've done my job. The goal is to always help as many, but if I can only get one, I'm grateful for that too. So I definitely thank my girl for coming. That is a wrap for Memoirs and Some, the podcast. Don't forget, you decide, y'all, how you are remembered. Again, I am your host. Y'all already know, Myia Dominique. I'm your host, Myia Dominique, and we here every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. But y'all already know we'll see y'all when we see y'all. Peace.